Service Excellence, the department review. Present with me is Brenda Iglesias with myself, Laura Gonzalez, our nutritionist, Houston Lindsay, our chef, and Thomas Stone. This year we had a couple of challenges. As you all know, the high prices on our food, shortage of laborers, our waivers that we had during the pandemic, they have all expired. This year we started with everything new as a new year. This is our farmers market. We had it at our North Heights. It was for the open house. Kids were able to taste different kinds of fruits. We were able to serve kiwi, rainbow carrots, sweet mini peppers, and some plums. So this was open to everybody that attended. This one is our Thanksgiving feast. This year we opened the doors for the parents to come in and have Thanksgiving meals with their children. As previous years with the whole pandemic, it was closed. It was only for the kids. So this year everybody was able to participate. This is our city health fair. We provided some blueberry smoothies and some strawberry and banana smoothies. This is our National Breakfast Week. On this one, we were able to provide our kids with breakfast that they would like, which was the glazed cinnamon rolls, pancakes, waffles, and many more. Each campus kept a record of how many meals they provided, and we saw a big increase. This is our taste testing. Our chef, Houston, was able to make some blueberry kale smoothies, some spicy chicken and poke bowl, and a turkey taco quesadilla. Slide number 8 is our roving chefs. These are cooking classes that we take to the kids. They're able to make mummy pizzas, pumpkin pancakes. They also were able to do their own chicken pasta bowls. These are some of the promotions that we had. So for the secondaries, we did Friday night wings. So every Friday we served them chicken wings. The elementaries, we did chicken and waffles for lunch. We had the fluffy pancake day. We also had the red food day and the pepperoni pizza day. This was our grant that we got for 22. This was the freshman line. We were able to provide them with the new steam table since theirs was already outdated. This one also has an a la carte station. And then this is a new program that we brought in this year, which was the after-school dinner program. So any child that was staying late to do tutorials or had a sports or something going on, they were able to come and have dinner after school. Now this year we did notice that the participation from some of our schools for lunch decreased. Reason for this is that the pandemic was able to give everybody free breakfast and lunch. Right now we're only offering free breakfast. For lunch, we did see an increase at our secondaries because it was based on the parents' income, so they had to pay for some of their lunches. Which brings us to our CP.
Yep, so we did the financial report in March, and based on that, we are eligible for 100% CEP, meaning when we file our claim, we get 100% back. Currently, right now, what it is we file a claim for 97%, and 3% we get back at a paid rate, which is a lower rate. That's without the high school, without freshmen, and without early college included. So hopefully next year, we've actually did the NSLP applications today. We turned them in, and on the NSLP applications, they're auto-populated with the information we put in March, and the information we put in March is in there, saying that we are 100%. So we'll get that certified by region during the summer, And then moving forward, hopefully that no longer need applications for all the schools with the exception of Ceniza Hills, because it is a new campus and we need 1 year to qualify it.
And this is the team. We look forward to another great year.
Dr. Rios?
Just for the record, and I was conversing with Willard about the sound system, so I may have missed it. So Ceniza Hills will not qualify for the free lunch, but we've discussed and we are going to incorporate it into our expenses, so everybody will get a free lunch.
That was great. We look forward to, again, having free lunches, especially for the upper grades. And of course, what you're doing for summer school is excellent as well, because some of these students are staying late. And we're doing tutorials after school, so it helps out every bit of, nutrition they can get to keep on going for the long day. We appreciate that, and I'll turn it over to board members. Mr. Overfeld?
Appreciate the presentation. One question for y'all there would be quality control coming into the year because of what's happened in the past, and we know what happened there. So can you lay out, and unfortunately it's not being streamed, but can you lay out your quality control measures so that we don't experience anything like that again?
Absolutely. So there was a couple of instances where there was definitely some false in quality control. Managers were not following, the standard operating procedures or the protocol that they should have been. And moving forward, that is definitely being looked at much more adamantly than it was right now. But I mean, that's the number one concern we have. That is our goal, is to feed as many kids as possible in the safest way, the most nutritious way. And to see the pictures that came out, I'm not the only one that was shocked, I'm sure.
So what would a pre-lunch quality control look like at any of the campuses?
Oh, it's on-site visits, and it's constant on-site visits. So we have to be in the schools. We no longer can sit back and wait for something to happen. Now we have to be more proactive about it.
Specifically, sir, what will your food managers be trained to do so that doesn't happen? That's what he's asking.
Oh, then no, that's already happened, sir. That's I'll go into detail, and I really didn't want to, but what was happening, especially
Pardon
with
us.
the burger bun that happened, the manager was taking that, putting it into the warmer, and then putting that back into the cooler, which is a giant no-no. I mean, from a serve safe perspective, from a food safety perspective, you never, ever do that. And they took it upon themselves to do it. Now, unfortunately, we've addressed it with all the managers already, so that's not going to happen again. But my concern is not just the burger buns, it's everything across the board. It's not one instance, it's all of it combined. The produce, the bread, the milk, all of it. Because to be honest, again, we've had issues about a month and a half ago, we had issues with milk. And that's a concern for us as well. Not in this district, but regionally in South Texas, there was an issue with milk. So,
Okay, so to follow up on that, each day during meal prep and as it's coming through the line or coming to the line, is there someone visually inspecting or going to be visually inspecting what's being prepped, what's coming out, so that we don't have one of those things make its way onto the tray and into the general population?
to be perfectly honest, sir, like, all of us should be, and I mean all of us in the food service should be aware of that. Not just the four of us, or not just the managers, but all the staff combined should be constantly on the lookout for all those things. So, and that's something that's going to be a point of order for training in the fall when we return. I mean, we have 8 days left, unfortunately, but that will be a strong point of order if we come back for training.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Dr. Rios?
I just want to make something clear to anybody who is here or anybody who will watch in the future. So just for the record, board members, the meeting is being captured and feed is going into the capture. So when they air it, the people at home will be able to hear it. Just the auditorium can't hear it right now, so for whatever reason, it's capturing the sound, but it's not replicated here in the auditorium. So for purposes of recording and feeding it to the public, the mics are on. But so I want to make something clear. The issue that happened that was referenced by Mr. Overfeld and that was played over and over on some of the social media, it was unfortunate. But what I've shared with the board and what I've shared with your upper management that's not able to be here tonight is that this was an issue that happened, and it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the workers, it's not the manager, and it's not just SFE, it's the entire team. Now, y'all are responsible for having continuous training so it doesn't happen again. But I was at middle school, I think Friday or maybe Thursday, one of those days. And there was some concern amongst the food service workers there about who was going to lose their job. I just want to make that clear. Nobody's losing their job at any level. But we are committing to having training for everybody, consistent training, and just take a team approach to solving the problem. Okay, so just for everybody's peace of mind.
I wanted to thank you again for following up on grants, because we are always wanting to upgrade facilities both in elementary and secondary schools. So whatever can be done for the following year, we sure would appreciate that.
Unfortunately, this year, President Mesa, we didn't qualify for a grant because we had a positive fund balance. So in the past, we can apply for a National School Lunch Program grant, but this year, since we had a positive fund balance going into December, we weren't eligible to apply. So we're making too much money.
Okay. Well, good try for this year. But thanks again for all you do. Thank you for the report. Anyone else?
I have one, just one quick
Mr. Orfeld?
follow-up. For students who are diabetic and have to adhere to a very strict menu and say they're not bringing it from home, do we, on campus, do we identify those children so that when they come through the line, they can have a diabetic-friendly meal, or how is that? If they're not bringing it from home, how would that be handled?
I usually do the diet, the special diet for the student. I go purchase the food for special for that student, and after that, the staff identifies the student by a picture and spyware, and they just hand them out the meal.
Okay.
So we accommodate a lot of special diets, allergies to egg. I mean, there's lots of allergies, right? But we do require a physician's note for that because it's just something we require.
Right.
But we do accommodate that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. And I know that you've also made special, I guess, requirements for those students that have allergies, like dairy allergies and so forth.
Yes, sir.
And that information goes from one campus to the other when a student moves down the line to secondary schools and so forth. Mrs. Webb has another question.
And that's not a question, it's just a comment addressing what Mr. Overfeld mentioned, because I'm also aware that the nurses on the campuses are aware of these students. So they also keep track, and they also go through the cafeteria to make sure that they are getting their meals appropriately. So thank you for that, ma'am.
Thank you for the report. Now I'll ask Amy Childress again, no further questions, to read the recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the renewal of the Food Service Management Company contract with Southwest Food Service Excellence, LLC.
For the recommendation, motion to approve made by Mrs. Gonzalez, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We go on to the next item. We have, I keep pulling my mic forward, no sound. But reports, again, item 8, we'll start with facilities and construction update. And Israel Carrera, or Mr. Chapa? Israel's gone.
She was here when he posted the agenda.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Tonight's presentation would encompass The three ongoing projects, Ceniza Hills Elementary, the Cardwell move to North Heights, as well as the electric bus update. Currently at Ceniza Hills, a contractor began placing the curb and gutter in the front entrance of the campus, basically the visitor parking lot. As of this morning, they had completed approximately 75% of the curve there at the front entrance. In addition, the block, CMU block, and as well as the EFS systems have been installed. The drywall in the interior has been basically completed. Painting is currently ongoing. It's approximately 80% complete. Tiling, ceramic tiling in the restrooms are approximately 90% complete. They're working, finishing the kindergarten classrooms. Flooring continues. One classroom is left, as well as the cafeteria and administration side of it. As far as the project's status and funding, the bottom portion in yellow represents what's the contingency fund. And as of today, there's still a little bit over $500,000 left in that contingency out of $750,000. And the rest of the funds, the $308,000 is from committed funds previously approved by the board. As far as the electrical bus deployment, of course, the first three items, the bus PO, the charging station PO, and the EPA documents have been submitted. We're pending the EPA fund dispersal so we can continue with the project. The Cardwell to move to North Heights. The exterior painting is scheduled now to be completed at the end of the month instead of mid-May because of weather. Of course, the additional circuits for the sinks have been completed. The rest of the items are pending to begin work as soon as the school year concludes. Any questions regarding this portion of the update?
Board members? I asked Dr. Rios a question about drainage. I'm always concerned with drainage. Of course, not all the leveling has been done, but are there any areas where you saw some puddle water, especially the roads?
There on the job site, there was not standing water. Of course, we had a significant amount of rain on Friday evening. I spoke with the contractor this morning. They were on site Saturday morning, and he told me there was no standing water. The caliche-based material held up well, even though it's the first layer, the first out of the two layers. And he said there was no problem with traction or anything on the equipment out there.
Have we had any updates in regard to the city with Agarita Drive and also the drainage problem that we have?
Yes, sir. Previously, I spoke with the TxDOT personnel, and they advised that because of the ongoing project that's within that area, it's contracted out. Per their policies, they cannot go in until they finish that area, the contractor. From what it looks like, they're pretty close to being finished. So once they finish that culvert that's right there just directly north of Agarita, then TxDOT can go in there and rework the channel there to prevent that ponding that occurs there at Agarita.
Okay. And I've seen some electrical work being done on, I guess, Highway 90. You know, it's almost like in front of the new school. Is that for us, Dr. Rios? They're putting up new poles, and I don't know if it's for infrastructure needed there for the electrical.
I'm not familiar with it. I've seen some of the work. I can reach out to TxDOT and find out what, I'm assuming it's probably a signalization project or informational project that would install like message boards similar to what is on the east side of town as you approach the outer loop. That's an assumption on my part, but I can verify. with Texas.
Yeah, I just wonder, I've seen some new poles out there, Dr. Rios, and just wondered if maybe transformers or what is gonna go up because of the expected, I guess, wattage necessary. Maybe, I don't know. Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much for that report.
If I may, I can
Yes, go continue with
work
maintenance.
report, work orders. The maintenance work orders, the 0 to 15 days, the percentage completed is approximately 91%. 16 to 30 days is 82%. 31 to 60, it's 78%. And 61 to 90, it's 69%. Technology, 0 to 15 is approximately 99%. 16 to 30 days is 82%. 31 to 60 days, it's 11%. 61 to 90 is 48%. And lastly, Transportation Department, 0 to 15 days is 96%. 16 to 30 days is 79%. 31 to 60 is 90%, and 61 to 90 days is 40%. Any questions regarding work orders?
Board members, any questions? No. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Go on to the next report, item 8B, Title III, bilingual exceptions, waivers, and assurances. Ida Gomez.
Looks like everything's frozen. President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and board members. Looks like the screen's frozen. One moment, please. Got it. Good evening. Talking to the mic. President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Tonight we have a presentation on our Title III. Title III is our funding for our bilingual and ESL. Because of the funding, we submit an application each year on exceptions, waivers to TA. Any classroom that has bilingual or ESL students that does not have a certified teacher has to be reported. And then we work with TA, and once they approve it, we continue with a plan of action. And tonight we're going to present that. We'll be looking at the enrollment counts, bilingual exceptions, our ESL waivers, our Title III TEA assurances, and the staff needs for 23-24. First of all, our bilingual enrollment. When we submitted the application in the fall of 2022, we had 1,114 bilingual students in K-5. We have 86 bilingual certified teachers in the district. 59 of those teachers are in our beginner, intermediate, bilingual classrooms. But we had to file 37 exceptions where we have beginner, intermediate, or advanced and advanced high students. In most cases, it's the advanced and advanced high students who are mixed in with general ed with a non-certified teacher. For our ESL secondary, you'll see that we had 795 students. Now, The application's a little different for secondary. It tracks two things. First, it will track our ELA teachers with an ESL certification. We had 9, and all 9 were teaching ELA. But then it will also ask how many ESL students are in a classroom for social studies, science, and math with a non-certified teacher. So you'll see there that we had 37. So last year we did file 74 waivers or exceptions. The next slide shows the breakdown. You'll see that at Ruben Chavita, we had 7 classrooms affected. Garfield had 3, Buena Vista 5, Dr. Lonnie Green 14, Lamar 6, and North Heights had 2 for a total of 37. For the ESL waivers, you'll see that San Felipe Memorial had 5 classrooms. Del Middle School had 8. Del High School had 16. Blended Academy had 3. Early College High School had 3. And RBB, even though it's an elementary campus, they did not have bilingual students. They had 2 students who spoke a language other than Spanish and needed an ESL certified teacher. That is the reason that that had to be a waiver under ESL. So you'll see a total of 37. When we file the application, there are 8 assurances that the district has to sign off on. And I've listed the 8 on this following page. We assure that the district has taken all responsible steps to secure teachers with certifications appropriate for bilingual education or ESL instruction. We assure the district has affirmative hiring policies and procedures consistent with the needs to serve English learners. We assure that the district has not unjustifiably denied employment to a teacher having a teaching certificate appropriate for bilingual or ESL instruction or emergency credentials within the past 12 months. The next one is highlighted because it will affect our needs for next year. Certified teachers available in the school district will be assigned to grade levels beginning in pre-kindergarten, followed successively by subsequent grade levels in the elementary school campus. Earlier, I showed that we had 86 teachers and only 59 were in classrooms. So it's pointing out that we need to look at those teachers. We assure the district shall implement a comprehensive professional development plan. We assure a minimum of our 10% of the allotted funds from Title III are spent on professional development for bilingual or ESL teachers. It also includes teachers serving in those waiver and exception classrooms. PD for them. Documents supporting the exceptions waiver application are locally maintained and available upon TEA request. And the district will maintain the documents supporting the actions taken to recruit an adequate number of certified teachers. Those are the assurances that we work with HR, we work with our bilingual department and our principals, but these are the ones that we have to sign off on for TA to approve the classrooms without a certified teacher. So to put it in perspective, this year in 2022-2023, Buena Vista had a need for 9 teachers serving the beginner intermediate population. For next year, because we're opening up a new Ceniza Hills Elementary and because we're rezoning, you will see that all the campuses will now have an enrollment of bilingual students, beginner intermediate, needing the staff. So while Buena Vista has 9 teachers this year, they will only need 6 for next year. Those 3 teachers will need to be reassigned to a bilingual classroom at a different campus. Ceniza Hills isn't open, but we're predicting they will need 6 bilingual teachers. Dr. Fermin Calderon did not have any beginner intermediate last year. We're predicting they will need 7. Dr. Lonnie Green had 8 last year. We're predicting 7 for this year. Garfield remained the same with 11 last year and 11 this year. Coming up. Lamar did not have any beginner intermediate bilingual teachers, but will be needing 8. Ruben Chavita had 12, will be needing 9. So this current year in 22-23, we have 40 beginner intermediate teachers in the classrooms. With the opening of the new school and the rezoning, and because where the students are going to be, we will be needing 54. So we wanted to present this information because TA has already spoken to us, assuring that we make every effort to utilize every certified teacher, and already we're predicting for next year the needs.
Dr. Rios?
Mr. President, members of the board, I asked that this presentation be put together and presented to everybody, not because TA requires this presentation at this time of the year, but because HR has to make some reassignments of teachers. And we've been telling TA that we will reassign certified bilingual teachers to bilingual classrooms. Now, we have a difference of 27 certified teachers who are not assigned to a classroom. So maybe of the 27, some are administrators, so maybe 20. When HR does the reassignments, they traditionally look at the last hired as the first to be transferred. But in this case, we need to transfer teachers who are bilingual certified to bilingual classrooms. And when we've tried to do that in the past, we've met some resistance. Some teachers even threatening to resign because they don't want to go to a bilingual classroom anymore. They've done 4th grade for a long time, and you know, that's where they want to be. But what we tell TA when we take the money for the bilingual program, we tell them that we're going to reassign teachers, and specifically to the lowest grade levels first. But we haven't been able to focus on that and do that, but this is the right opportunity because we're rezoning the districts and we're having to transfer teachers. We're going to have 4 campuses with a huge need for bilingual teachers, which is going to be Lamar, and Calderon are going to have the biggest needs. So will Garfield and so will Chavita, but primarily Lamar and Calderon. So we need to make those transfers, and I just wanted to make this presentation and share with the board that in the next month, when Aide Garcia begins to make the recommendations for the transfers, we're probably going to hear some resistance. But we've been telling TA for the longest time that we will comply with the assurances, and it's just important that we make every attempt to do that. So if the board hears some comments, this is why we're doing it. Okay.
A couple of questions before I turn it over to board members. Could you tell us of the efforts that are being done to train these teachers that are coming in as far as providing assistance for testing fees and so forth for them to become bilingual teachers?
Yes, sir. This year, well, for probably the last 2 years, we have had a cohort. We actually recruit a cohort of teachers. Last year we did it internally. The training was internally. Every month we would meet with them, and then we encouraged them to test, and we paid for the test before we even knew if they passed. We wanted to encourage them to take the test because I believe that's a little fear that they had to pay for a test and not pass it. Unfortunately, we only had one from that cohort last year. This year, Ms. Schaefer and her team have created a cohort, and they're working with Texas A&M University, who's providing the training and the modules. Very much the same, Mr. Mesa, to pass the exam. And at this time, they have not scheduled to take it, but we do reimburse for the exam. And we do pay teachers, depending on the cohort, to attend the sessions, depending if it's after school or if there's a stipend.
And my other question has to do with if you have procedures in place, will the teachers be given options? And I'll give you an example. If you have a teacher that has 30 years, should they be given priority over teachers that have less time to choose what school, what grade level, perhaps, Dr. Rios?
If I'm understanding the scenario correctly, let's say that I have 30 years of teaching experience and I'm bilingual certified, and I know I'm going to have to get moved. So then, because of my seniority, should I be given an opportunity to say, I want to go to Lamar bilingual, or I want to go to Chavira bilingual, or Calderon bilingual? Absolutely. We can definitely take it, give the teachers with the most seniority priority to pick the campus, as long as the choices are limited to the need of the district, which is bilingual classrooms.
And then a follow-up question will be, have teachers received any correspondence relating to this new assurance that is required?
No, Mr. Mesa, the assurances have been in place for a while, but in the past, when we've tried to make the reassignments, we've met with resistance. We haven't followed through. But we need to now, because TA has communicated with us that for many years we haven't made any progress on reducing the number of exemptions and waivers. So we've shared with teachers that a lot of teachers are going to have to get reassigned because of the rezoning, but specifically telling bilingual teachers, no, sir, we have not done that. We're communicating that to the board now, and in the coming week we will share it with teachers, and we'll let them know probably before the end of the school year if possible. Ms. Garcia was waiting for the number of applicants for the academies that we want to open up, to see how the population was going to shift with the dual language program that we want to have at Chavira, at Lamar and Buena Vista, see what the need was going to be for bilingual teachers there, and see how many kids were going to want to apply to the STEM Academy. We have that number now, so we're ready to start making the reassignments.
Now, sorry to keep the board members from asking the questions, but the only waivers that we get is when the classroom size, the count goes over. These waivers that have been done to TA are not board approved.
Yes, Mr. Mesa. Every year we make one presentation to the board sharing how many bilingual waivers we have to submit. So once a year we do make a presentation to the board. And I believe, I want to say November, but correct me, Ms. Gomez.
That's correct, in the fall.
Yes, sir.
This is with the teachers that are not certified serving bilingual and ESL students.
Yes, sir. The application comes through, and we do have to submit it with number of students, number of certified teachers in the district, number of those teachers working in the classroom, and then how many waivers we've been applying for. I will say that I've been doing this for 7 years, and so long as we make a small decrease, we've gone from 60 waivers to 58 to 55. It's never been drastic. Unfortunately, last year we filed 34, and this year we filed 37. So we didn't decrease, we increased for the first time. So TA has brought it to our attention that we need to make a better effort.
Okay. I'll turn it over to board members for questions. Mr. Overfeld?
So I want to go back to the stuff in red that Dr. Rios already kind of hit on about teachers available in the district will be assigned to the grade levels beginning pre-K and moving on up. So going back to what you said, just so I can understand and make sure. Let's say the first 5 years of my teaching career, right, I was in bilingual, and then I went and was able to move out of bilingual and was teaching other classes or other grade levels that weren't bilingual. But because I have a valid bilingual certification, there is the possibility I can be called up and told, you're going back into the bilingual classroom.
Yes, sir.
And what happens if a teacher says, fine, I'm going to surrender my certificate, the bilingual certificate, and not the regular teaching certificate? Because I can see it happening.
Kind of hard to surrender it when it has an expiration date.
You can call up ESBEC and say, cancel my certificate. So I'm just curious, is that would that be considered insubordination?
Yes, sir, it would.
Interesting. Okay. But
Unless y'all have another suggestion on how we can handle it, I mean, we're at a place where we have to do some changes.
if I come back into the classroom, I'm like, okay, I'll go back into the bilingual classroom. Am I getting a stipend for that?
$4,000.
What if I have a co-teacher in there that's also bilingual certified?
If that co-teacher is serving, well, only one of them needs to be bilingual certified. So you don't have a co-teacher and the regular teacher that would be bilingual certified. That's not necessary. So that, in all likelihood, probably would not happen. But if a teacher is reassigned into a bilingual classroom, they do qualify for the stipend.
Okay. Okay.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Webb?
How many teachers right now are serving ESL classrooms that are not certified, that are not taking the training out of Texas A&M?
I do not have that information.
Does Ms. Schaefer know?
Possibly. Ms. Schaefer?
Cohort is very minimal this time for spring, they don't have it.
Hard to hear without me.
The cohort for spring just ended, and I was just sent an email to Mr. Jimenez, who's in charge of it, to see when we can get those cohorts going for the summer, and then again in the fall and spring. So there's, but as far as the last one that we had 2.
Because if we have, how many teachers do we have right now serving these ESL classes that are non-certified?
37.
So out of those 37, we only have 2?
Yes, that went through this cohort.
Right. So my question is, in the past, there was either, whether it was TA required or whether it was district, they had a ruling where everybody had to be ESL certified, because I was there, I was teaching at Lamar when that occurred. And even non-Spanish speaking teachers were certified in ESL. Now, they didn't necessarily teach ESL, but everybody in the district was required to be certified.
That is correct.
Now, how can we provide that training? Can it come out of Region 15, Region 20? I don't know.
The training for ESL certification we can provide, and it's very easy to obtain. A few years ago, we were providing stipends for people that became ESL certified, and it was real easy to become ESL certified. That's not a problem. We just have to come up with a plan. The problem is the bilingual certification. That was the one that's very difficult to come by. And as long as I've been superintendent, we've always had a program to try to recruit people and provide training, and we progressed the amount of the stipend, we progressed how we pay for the test. Before, The idea was that we pay for the test if you pass it. Now it's we'll pay for the test because we want you to test. That's the difficult one. The ESL one, I'm confident that we can get as many people certified as we need to, but the bilingual certification, that's the issue that we're having.
Can we provide training out of one of the region centers for everybody on that as well?
They have it.
The Region Center is difficult because Region 15 does not provide, they don't have a handle on bilingual certification. But Region 20 out of San Antonio, we can get it. A&M and other universities, absolutely. I think at some point we even had something with the Sol Ross here. Region 4 provides excellent. So providing the training is not an issue. We've always done it. It's a success rate because the bilingual test is difficult. You have to have a mastery of the academic language in
Yes.
Spanish.
Yep. They ask you an essay question, you have to answer it in Spanish. That's my problem. I'm like, so yeah, it's harder than
Yeah, 'cause
ESL.
I had to get it.
I have ESL, but I don't have
Well, I have the
bilingual.
bilingual, but we
Well,
had to go through the
so I got
training as well.
ESL.
I'm sorry, Ms. Gonzalez.
But I got ESL.
But
But bilingual's harder, yeah.
But one of the questions in teaching bilingual, and people would ask, and the same thing that Mr. Overfelt was indicating, was you've taught bilingual, yet you feel like you don't have the support of the district, or at that time, teachers felt they didn't have the support of the district, so they didn't want to work with bilingual students. Because even when we had TA come down and I was in the classroom, my questions were addressed directly to TA, because my principal at that time couldn't answer my questions, or they didn't have the answers, but they did not like me asking TA when they came on the campus. But that's the only way we could get answers so that we could figure out how do we work with these students and how do we move forward to give them what they need so they can excel and be successful like everybody else. So I think that's something that we have to consider.
Dr. Rios.
Mr. Ressa, we'll definitely look to see how much more aggressive we can get in providing support programs at different levels for our teachers who are on waivers to get that certification. We'll absolutely do that, and we'll even enumerate it and put it in some kind of memo to the board or update. The difficulty that we're going into next is not only are we having teachers at a campus, let's take Buena Vista, for example. They were a bilingual academy. So now there may not be the need for as many bilingual teachers at Buena Vista. So now even the teachers that were teaching bilingual have to get moved to a campus where they're needed, particularly in the earlier grades, because that's what we're required to do. And then we also have teachers who haven't been teaching bilingual that are certified that should get moved also, because why would we only pick on the teachers that are currently teaching at a campus and now have to be moved to another campus where they're needed? So it's a difficult move that we have to make, and I know that board members are going to hear it, and we just wanted to explain to the board members why we're having to make this move, so that you all know the situation.
I just want to express one to you because I think most of us were probably bilingual certified, including myself, and it's usually was the evaluation instrument that not everyone raised their hand, and so your thought, principals, the thought was you're not teaching all of them. Well, there might be so many different levels. Your lesson plans show that there's so many different levels that again, some of them are not going to be answering the questions as readily as English speakers are, because they understand the language, and so that it was a very difficult thing. But I sure hope that we can provide the teachers options so that they can understand that this is something that we're forced to do, because again, the reports that we send in, unfortunately, we had more than previous years as far as exceptions, and so something has to change. And if we can provide those assurances that, again, teachers are given options, and for them to choose what school, what grade level, if at all possible, that would be beneficial.
I have
Becky?
just for my sake, I guess I'm asking this. teachers are being trained? That's the cohort, that's what you want to get to train, or what the district wants, training the teachers to become bilingual? Now, can you elaborate a little bit more on this? How long is the training? You know, do they go to Texas A&M, or is it all through video? I'm just not aware of how it is done and for how long, because to get a bilingual education, I mean, a training has to be a good training for them to pass a test, not just any, quick training type of thing. So, I'm sorry, but can you elaborate on that?
Yes, and how we're doing it this year,
I'm
how we
sorry,
did it.
come up to the mic because it is recording.
Okay, sorry.
It's not replicating.
How we did it this year with the cohorts is they would sign up with Texas A&M, and then they provided all of their people who signed up an iPad, and then of course just like online instruction with online classes, etc. They would do some modules, and then they would be able to go and take the test, and then TEA reimburses them for the purchase of the test, if you will. And so those extra trainings that the department would provide were just like the after-school ones with the strategists. So we would train strategists on our Friday meetings, and then they would go and then train on strategies to use. So this year it was just how it worked out, but of course your recommendations are what we'll be using to move forward, especially with TEA and what the needs are for the extension of the school.
So in actuality, how long is the training?
I think there's 6 modules within that one training for the cohort, and it's at their own pace, and so they can take it when they're able.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Just want to know who's they? How do they get? The teacher will say, I want to be bilingual, and I'll ask you to get me on that program, or what? How does that work?
We've sent an email to all the bilingual teachers who we have as on our list of who are teaching
People
the
that are not
bilingual
bilingual
students.
like me. For me to get a bilingual certification.
So
How
ma'am,
does that
the
work?
training is offered to teachers who we filed waivers for.
Okay, that's what I need to, who they
Yes.
are.
I'm sorry.
Okay, those are the ones we do. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Just remind them that the stipend is still quite a bit.
Yeah. $4,000.
And thank you for the report. No further questions. Okay, we go on to the next report, which is 8C, Term 5 Attendance and Discipline Report. We got that in our packet. If there's questions from board members, do we need to hear the whole report?
What is it? I'm sorry, I lost
Term
you.
5 Attendance
Attendance, this
and
one.
Discipline.
Oh, we got it here too.
No, I just want to comment that it's a lot better than what it was. So I'm glad that it's improved. I see the areas of improvement, and I'm glad that either they're making home visits or making an effort to increase the attendance. So I appreciate that. No questions.
Mr. Mesa, I have just,
Miss-
I guess it's for you.
Miss Lynn?
Since you're keeping up with the legislative, they still haven't decided as whether they're gonna fund with attendance or,
Yeah.
Yes, no decision. The question is the fundings, whether it's going to be based on enrollment or ADA. We don't have any new information
yet.
regarding that yet. It will be coming on pretty soon. They're urging everybody, I think they're calling it, the campaign is May Day, May Day. Send letters out to make sure that we get funding based on enrollment instead of ADA. That's all. We go on to our next report, item AD, review of policy to rename campus. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. In a matter of few short weeks, the 2022-23 school year will come to a close, and swiftly will begin preparations for the start of a brand new year. In preparing for the brand new year, I wanted to refresh the board on the school naming process. And this is CW local. Remember that we will have Irene Cardwell Elementary close, and we will have North Heights Elementary close as an elementary K-5 school. And so at this point, this is just to refresh the board what the policy is on our school renaming process. So it's just solely that, just to give you information so that you are aware. So the board has complete authority and responsibility for the permanent naming of a school, a district facility. So that's pretty much up in the forefront. You have that authority and responsibility. There are some guidelines that are in the policy that govern the permanent naming of our facilities, and this is what it looks like. So as we think about schools and facilities, the way the policy is written is that consideration shall be given to naming elementary schools after an area or subdivision in which they are located, or after individuals who have made significant contributions to the district or the community. The elementary school naming process, should the board wish to begin a school naming process, it must publicly announce its intent. The naming process, also, the announcement shall provide the opportunity for the community to submit nominations for school names. And then the board shall ask the superintendent. Did it come up? It didn't come up. I'm so sorry. Let me start that over.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Right there. Let's start from the beginning. So just kind of a recap. The board has the complete authority and responsibility for naming schools and facilities, and we have those guidelines. And the consideration shall be given to naming elementary schools after the area or subdivision in which they're located, or after individuals who have made significant contributions to the community, to the educational program of the district. And then, if the board wishes to proceed to begin a school naming process, it must publicly announce its intent. The announcement should provide the opportunity for the community to submit nominations for school names. And then the board will then ask the superintendent to solicit names for specific facility. In this case, it would be the North Heights campus, and direct the superintendent to form a committee for the purpose of proposing a name. This selection committee shall be comprised of at least 2 board members appointed by the board president, the site administrator, and 2 parents from that attendance zone involved. The committee shall be chaired by the superintendent or his designee. And then at that point, the public is invited to submit nominations within a specified time period allotted by the board, using a form, the exhibit that is in our policies. And these forms, once the board establishes that within that time period, the public is then invited to submit those by email, hand delivery, or mail. When this committee comes together, if they feel there's adequate support from the public for a specific name, or in the absence of credible opposition to that name, the committee then submits the name to the board for its consideration. If public support isn't evident, then the committee can then decide to choose to consider a different name. And the committee then, once they have made a recommendation, they'll make the recommendation to the board, and the board will make that final selection. And this is the process. Are there any questions?
Dr. Rios?
Mr. Russell, we're bringing this presentation to y'all because it's already come up about what we're going to do, and the policy is clear. I mean, it's a lot of verbiage, but it's clear. You can either follow a process or the board can have a discussion and name it, but it can't be the superintendent, because if it was the superintendent, well, the superintendent is going to leave it as North Heights because that's the name it has, and we don't have the authority to change it. And because it's come up, I know that come August or June or July, somebody's going to say, hey, when are you going to change the name? Well, it's a board's priority, or not priority, prerogative to choose the name and choose the process that they go. When we talked about naming Ceniza Hills, I recommended that we name it Ceniza Hills so that the issue wouldn't become divisive with the board and that we could move forward. Unfortunately, in this case, there are different people that want it named Cardwell, and I've heard other suggestions, but it's up to the board. So y'all just need to direct administration what to do, and we'll move forward.
Ms. Webb?
Since you brought up the name Cardwell, I can tell you that when Cardwell was renamed to the position or the title or the name that it has right now, the board members that were in place at that time was Mr. Boykin, Arriola, Delgado, Ackerman, were all on that board. When they received the name Irene C. Cardwell and they transferred over to Eastside, the name carried. There was no discussion, are we going to rename it again after it had already been named Irene C. Cardwell? Now, I can also tell you, because I was present during that time, when we had the bond election and several of us were going to the different campuses, the staff members and parents from Irene C. Cardwell were told if they were to relocate, the name would go with them. So I don't understand what this discussion is about. Now, if we're looking at renaming the new school, okay, that's fine. But to take someone's name that has already been named, to me, that's totally incorrect. That's totally wrong.
Yeah, that's not the intent, Mrs. Webb, but I'll have Dr. Rios.
I just want to clarify one point, Ms. Webb, because I think I think what you said partly was correct. I made those presentations to the campuses, and I know that if Irene Cardwell would have relocated to Chavira, I would have never assumed that we would do away with the name Chavira. When I made that presentation, the prevailing idea was that Irene Cardwell would go to Lamar. So absolutely, I had discussed with some board members, and we would rename Lamar Irene Cardwell. But it wasn't a general statement of wherever it goes, because again, one of my second recommendation at the time, and it was just full of people here, was that we consider Chavira. And I would absolutely never consider even recommending to the board that we do away with the name Chavira. It was specific to Lamar when I made those presentations. It wasn't wherever Cardwell goes, the name is going to go. Now, it's up to the board. I just want to clarify that.
Well, I know that North Heights was mentioned at that time because I was there. I was at some of those meetings as well.
Yeah. I just want to assure the public that Cardwell will remain, as far as I'm concerned. You know, Cardwell will not be removed. But there was a school on that side, and I have no idea why it was named North Heights. It's not even on the North Heights edition. It ends at 17th Street. North Heights is on 18th Street. It's not even in the North Heights edition. But it used to be Marion Russell Middle School. And it was removed. Should have never been removed. And I can tell you why it was moved, because they had something like 200 students with signs and parents, and it was an emotional type meeting. But the credit had been given to Marion Russell because she worked for 30-something years with the district. She retired, and then she was brutally murdered, and mystery was somewhat never solved. But that school had been Marion Russell Middle School, which I even led that school for some time. And so it would not change from Cardwell, but possibly, again, credit to Miss Marion Russell. She was my mentor, and she had earned the credit of being, an outstanding educator. She was a teacher, a music teacher. She was a librarian, and she was my mentor. But Cardwell would not be removed. What would be ideal would be Cardwell, Russell, Head Start, or Russell, Cardwell, whatever. But that would be a sample. Cardwell would not be removed. And so, but again, there's a policy in place, and so we'll let the public decide on that as well.
Well, and on that note, when the middle school was moved to San Felipe Memorial Middle School, it
That's
was
good.
Marion Russell. But the name Marion Russell did not transfer over to San Felipe Memorial. It was determined that it was going to be San Felipe Memorial, and that the library
Well,
at
actually-
San Felipe Memorial would be named after Mrs. Russell. So I don't know. To me, it's like you're adding a name to someone else's name that's already on that school. That's my opinion. You wouldn't do, it's
Anyone
like me
else?
trying to add a name to Cody Warlaw. Let me add another name to it. That's not right.
What was done was wrong to remove the name of Marion Russell
Well,
Middle
that should
School.
have been done when San Felipe Memorial was going to be moved. Anyway,
No,
I'm
they were gonna
no
name
discussion.
something else.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I believe the reason they changed it was because the North Heights alumni wanted to go back to North Heights. Has anybody brought that up this time? Any of the North Heights alumni to keep it at North Heights? The name there?
Dr. Ruz?
That's what I remember.
No, it was, the name Marion Russell, it stayed Marion Russell even when San Felipe became a seventh grade school, because I remember, it got changed. Marion Russell got changed to North Heights because the faculty at North Heights at the time and current students at North Heights at the time, they had a presentation, demonstration, pep rally. It's been called different things, and that's why it was changed. And North Heights had success at the time. They were a very small school, and it just had a lot of success. So they thought it would keep the success moving forward, and that's why it was changed. I just need some direction from the board. Do y'all want to decide? Do y'all want to powwow amongst yourselves, or do you want
Let's
Do
duke
you
it
want
out.
us to begin the process of renaming the school entirely? Or do you want me to leave it the way it is as North Heights? But I don't have the authority to just say, I'm going to rename it Cardwell. As a matter of fact, there's paperwork that we need to file with different agencies as to the name it's going to have. And so I need to know. I would much rather the board discuss it and we not have to go through the process and y'all agree what the name would be. But because if we go through the process, it's going to not only involve the board, but it's going to become some emotions for everybody else in the community. But I'll do what you want me to do, but I'm not going to change the name just automatically on my own because that's not my right.
I also had I guess it was that it was going to stay Cardwell once it moved to the new location, to North Heights. That's what I thought. I didn't know we were going to change the name. Well, we're not going to, well, it's up to us anyway. That's what I was thinking. Leave it at Cardwell.
Mr. Orfeld?
When's the next budget workshop?
20th.
I'm sorry, it's Monday, sir.
I believe
Next Monday?
Monday.
20th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Need to-
I'd like to request an item be put on there for, to, discussion to transfer the Cardwell name from the existing campus to the campus that's going to go to. And then an agenda item to begin the discussion of renaming or accepting names for Ceniza Hills.
Is that a motion or?
No, it's
He's
a
just-
discussion item, so we
he's
can't
asking.
motion, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying I would like to see that on the agenda so that we can get it going to at least get the Cardwell name moved over. Because, yeah, I'm under the impression that we were just moving the name over as well. The name North Heights was gonna cease to exist, and it would be Irene C. Cardwell Head Start.
Dr. Rios.
I just want to make it clear, you're the board, and it's your schools and your kids and your money, and we'll administer it however you want us to do. But I want to make it clear that when we go down this path and it becomes emotional, it becomes a huge distraction to our primary goal to educate the kids. And that's something that I am asking the board to avoid. Because first, we don't have the personnel to handle all of this. And I'm not saying it's unnecessary because it's important to some people, but it is a huge distraction for the limited personnel that we have to handle this. Now, if it's the wishes of the board, we'll do as you ask. But it is a huge distraction. It's very emotional, especially when it's going to involve people outside of this team of 8.
With respect to that, the renaming of the Laughlin Magnet School was ramrodded through without, I mean, I literally came in here that day and it was on the agenda, had no idea that it was going to go in and we were going to do that. Never knew about any committees, anything like that. It came in here and we had to do it. And I was all in favor of it because that individual was a great person there, but I mean, it just got rammed right through. And then as soon as we started building or announced that we were going to build this, magically the policy got changed to add in subdivision there because of what you're saying about emotions and stuff like that. Northside and other places, because I wrote the policy, the initial policy, I wrote the policy in the name elementaries, middle schools, high schools here that was ultimately adopted and based it a lot on what Northside does. And they're a huge district and they go about it. Every school that they open gets named after a Supreme Court justice or a Texas Supreme Court justice or an individual. I don't think there's not emotion in the sense of the Cardwell thing moving over. I think that's a done deal. It's just you need an agenda item for us to say yes to it there to move the name over so you can begin all the paperwork with TEA and everything else. I just don't think having an elementary, brand new state-of-the-art elementary up there and naming it after a subdivision, which is technically many, many blocks away, is the right thing to do. I mean, if I had it my way, we'd rename Sanisa, Buena Vista, and Garfield there and rename them all after people have had an impact in this district. It's emotional. Politics is emotional. There's a lot of other stuff that is very, very distracting. Hell, Friday was distracting there. So, I mean,
But this board didn't cause that distraction.
Right, but I think every board member in here had. Board, you're saying I'm going to cause a distraction? Was that what that was about?
If the board opens up the committee to rename campuses, it involves a lot of our personnel that otherwise don't get directly involved in all of the other things that we have done, that we still have pending to do to address teaching and learning. It is a huge distraction, Mr. Overfelt. It is a huge distraction, and that's why we didn't want to do it when we named Sanisa Hills, and that's why we named it. I would much rather the board discuss what they want to name, whether they want to rename North Heights or they keep the name North Heights, and that it not go through the whole policy in the committee, that y'all discuss it amongst yourselves. It's your right, agree on that, but to open it up to where we're gonna rename Ceniza, well, I remember when we tried to rename Garfield.
No, I do
Okay.
too. I do too. And,
And
there
then-
was,
and
and that
immediately
got
became-
that got slapped down right after an election. There, it got pigeonholed and put away with. There, we never heard anything about it again. You know, I can gladly resurrect that thing if need be, but that's fine. You know, I tried to rename Garfield for people who were deserving of it, and it was shut down and stuff. I've tried to get this new one done that it should be after someone deserving, and obviously it's getting shut down. I'm starting to think that anytime that I come up with something that we should rename for deserving, that no, you know, go suck hot air in there. So
Well, that's not fair, Mr. Overfield, because I was with you when we wanted to rename Garfield, and you and I had a discussion, and we were both for it, but it didn't work because of the emotions. But you and I worked on that together, and we were both on the same page, but it caused a big distraction, and it didn't happen. So that's all I'm suggesting.
The easiest thing would be leave Cardwell the way it is, move it over to North Heights.
I'm
We can
all
go on.
for that.
And may
All
I
for that.
speak?
That's what I thought we did.
Then let's,
Mr. Mesa?
I think the library has already been named Marion Russell,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's unfortunate that the name was taken, it was already a school named Marion Russell Middle
Eh,
School.
Can I speak?
Yes, Becky.
Thank you. You know, as we see right now, it's already a discussion. We need the board time to discuss this among ourselves if we're gonna take action on that and come up with what we all agree with, versus if we're going through the process, if it's gonna cause a lot of emotion, if it's gonna cause a lot of discussion, then the best thing to do is to just, if it's up to the board, then we need a little time to discuss this and come up with a name. Do we have to come up with it right now, right here?
No,
No?
no,
No?
This discussion.
no.
So
But I'm
then
saying,
a
the
motion
easiest
that
thing
we
would
give a
be,
name. Well, that's why we need to get together and talk about it before we say, okay, this is what I want.
then
Then I
is-
make a
Well,
motion.
there's no motion.
Oh.
But Mr. Mesa has already indicated, leave the name as it is, like what they were told. Let Cardwell move over to North Heights as if they were.
That's why I'm asking if we're deciding
That's what we're
right now.
discussing right now. It's in discussion right now.
Voted yet.
well, I don't know if that, Mr. Overfelt, would that suffice as far as your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm all
'Cause
for, I'm all for us going in and directing administration to transfer the name, because I think all all seven of us were under that impression.
Yes, yeah.
I have no qualms against that.
I think the library is already named after
I
Marion
was
Russell.
at that meeting. I
And-
remember it.
And so, because I know we have budget meetings and so many things to take care of before it becomes an emotional issue.
Or we can put it on the regular agenda for June and that gives us plenty of time to independently talk to each other and not break walking quorum or anything like that. And we can go in and, on the June, regular meeting, have that item to transfer the name.
Because we have two board members out, so that would be great.
Then let's do that,
Yeah.
Dr. Rios. We have so many other things to take care of. I
So-
think that would be,
At the June board meeting, we bring an agenda to rename North Heights Elementary to Cardwell Elementary.
yes. With the-
And that's the only agenda item that we bring forward?
Yeah.
Okay,
For now,
moving on.
We'll move on.
for now.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, we have the consent item next, item 9 on the agenda. Again, there's some minutes of some meetings and a workshop that we had. There's some donations. If anyone would like to pull any of these items out, whether it's a purchase order, then now's the time to do that. You have a question, then again, if you want to take any of these items and have it be voted on separately, we can do that. But again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? None? Then do I hear a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in agreement? Motion carries unanimously. The donations? Yes.
The following items were monetary donations to North Heights Elementary. And that's JBJR Ranching, $50. Jack Lift and Equipment, $500. Cowboy John, $300. CNS Western Wear, $50. 24/7 Service Techs, $100. Chick-fil-A, $810. Big Dave's Repair, $250. RPV Construction LLC, $1,000. And Julio Ortoso, $50. The following were monetary donations to Del Rio High School, FCC LA, Brown Automotive, $100, Bank and Trust, $500, Money Concepts, $50. The next one was monetary donations to Blended Academy High School from Border Federal Credit Union for $400. The others are monetary donations for Garfield Elementary, No Quit Boxing Club, $100, and VFW Auxiliary, $300, and Riverside Custom Homes, $500. Then we have Buena Vista Elementary Care Club, who received $250 from the Spot and Pro Shops. Now we go to non-monetary donations. For North Heights Elementary, from Walmart, we had half pallet of school supplies valued at $327.76. And from Rudy's Barbecue, for Lego League T-shirts and snacks, $250. Then we go to Fermin Calderon Elementary, Del Rio, Texas Youth Basketball Association, teacher supplies valued at $450. Laura Serrano, one balloon, art kit, and banner valued at $20.78. Keller Williams Realty for Julio's Tacos for staff valued at $224.20. Then we have Garfield Elementary from Border Check, $25 for one gift certificate. And to Del Rio High School Drama Club from the Galleria, $2,800 worth of suits, dresses, hats, and accessories. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, we appreciate every donation that is made, either individuals or businesses. Thank you again for your support and assisting us in all the different programs. Next item we have is administration, item 10. First item we have is 10A, consideration to approve the nomination and appointment of Mr. Rene Garza to represent Del Rio, San Felipe Del Rio CISD on the Val Verde County Appraisal Board of Directors. Dr. Rios.
Mr. Mesa, we hired Mr. David Torres, who was previously representing the district on the appraisal district, the Val Verde County Appraisal District. As such, he had to resign, and now the board has to fill that vacancy. The cabinet came up with a couple names in case the board would not be able to come up with a name. But since then, the board or a board member has nominated Mr. Rene Garza to represent the San Felipe Del Rio CISD. I've reached out to Mr. Garza, and he is more than willing to do it. There have been no questions since we posted the agenda. If the board is in agreement, we would make that recommendation.
Any questions? Yes. Becky? Question? Oh,
No question.
did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to
Oh.
move. I wanted to make a
No
motion.
questions, so
Recommendation.
Okay, recommendation?
Okay. It is a recommendation of the administration that the board approve the nomination of Mr. Rene Garza to represent San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Val Verde County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
You've heard the recommendation. Ms. Gonzalez made a motion, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in agreement? Motion carries. Item 10B, consideration to approve the District of Innovation Advisory Committee for the development of the District Innovation Plan. Sandra Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa. Earlier today, we heard the public hearing with regard to the District of Innovation process. The district is eligible for designation as a District of Innovation. It has an overall rating of B. Therefore, the district is eligible to continue the designation as a District of Innovation. The Board of Trustees adopted a resolution on May the 10th, 2023 to initiate the District of Innovation designation process as outlined in code, and the district has held a public hearing regarding the district's consideration for the designation. Based on the completion of these requirements, the administration requests approval from the board to appoint the District of Innovation Advisory Committee to develop a local innovation plan. The local innovation plan will provide for a comprehensive educational program for the district and will continue an exemption or modification to the Texas Education Code affecting the following areas. Chapter 25, Admission, Transfer, and Attendance. Subchapter C, Operation of Schools and School Attendance. Texas Education Code 25.0811A, First Day of Instruction. Chapter 21, Educators, Subchapter A, General Provisions. Texas Education Code, Chapter 21.003A, Certification Required. And Chapter 37, Discipline, Law, and Order, Texas Education Code. Chapter 37.0012, Designation of Campus Behavior Coordinator. We will use the same original group that created the first innovation plan. They will continue. The only changes will be those individuals who are no longer with our school district, and we will provide an updated copy to you with those names. Are there any questions?
Questions from board members? Sandra, those that were on the committee, have they agreed to stay on?
Yes, sir. I have already reached out to them, and we have already given them introduction to the exemptions and this next process.
Great, great. It helps with the learning process that they've been through it.
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, and did you want to read the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees appoint the District of Innovation Advisory Committee for the development of the District of Innovation Local Innovation Plan.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Becky Chavez. Is there a second to the motion? Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 11A, consideration to approve amendment of local graduation coursework requirements to exclude the completion of Business Information Management, BIM course to graduate. Ida Gomez.
Okay. Oh, I struggle with this. Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Tonight we bring before you an amendment to a resolution that was established in 2012. If you'll give me just one moment to open up the presentation. The Business Information Management course was board approved as a graduation requirement for all students on July 16, 2012, starting with the freshman class of 2012-2013. The proposed changes are as follows. The completion of the BIM course will no longer be a graduation requirement for all students. The BIM course will continue to be required for the associate's degree in agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College and all early college high school students. That would still be a requirement. The BIM course will continue to be offered as an elective for any student in grades 9 through 12. So if I chose to take it, it would still be available, just not a requirement for graduation. On the next screen, you will see that CTE has 15 different programs of study. Only 2 programs, aviation maintenance and teaching and learning, actually require BIM as part of the pathway. The other 13 studies of programs, which you'll see listed on the right side of the screen, do not include BIM as a requirement for the pathway. You can take principles, you can take other courses in place of BIM, and we do have students who would like to take other electives but are kind of locked in because of the requirement. Are there any questions so far?
Question from board members?
I just have
Becky?
one. Just out of curiosity, in 2012, why was it a course that had to be a requirement course versus what is the difference now?
So
Dr. Rios?
10 years ago, students were not as fluent on things like keyboarding and PowerPoint and Word and Excel, and that was starting to be the wave of the future. So at that time, it was the recommendation was that every student take BIM, but it was a local recommendation. It was just for this district. This district chose that. Most districts don't require it as a pathway to graduation. Now, unless there was other reasons, Mr. Roger, you were involved in that decision then as well, weren't you? You weren't there? Oh, okay, well then we'll go with my answer only.
Dr. Rios, that is also when we moved away from social studies at freshman. It was the same time frame.
It was the same time frame?
So kind of, this was a need at that time.
Okay. You know, the problem that exists now, for example, as we're moving forward and trying to get a better balanced master schedule, because we have so many classes that have just a handful of students. Well, because their schedules fill up and they want to take some electives, but others can't. So take, for example, dance at the freshman for the fine arts credit. That position, we're doing away with it because kids don't have enough room in their schedule to take that. So then they end up trying to take it as a sophomore, as a junior. And that's one example of courses that they would want to take. Or if kids want to do band and athletics at the same time, it limits them. So we're not doing away with a course, we're just doing away with the course as a requirement for graduation. It's still there if students want to take it at any time, either in their sequence of courses that's required for CTE or any time as an elective.
Thank you. I just wanted a little bit more info on it.
Anyone else? Ms. Webb?
Yeah, Dr. Rios did allude to the fact that TA doesn't require BIMS because on 130.36 and .37, it's not a requirement. However, do we have teachers available that are certified to teach BIMS? I guess this is more to Roger's question. And how is that going to affect the teachers that are currently teaching BIMS? Are they going to be transferred to other subjects or other areas that?
No, I'll answer that.
If less students are taking BIMS now.
So, one, we have an excess of BIM teachers because of the class loads that they have. So we're already transferring some teachers to other courses. Nobody's ever going to lose their job. We'll keep working with them in transitions until we get to that number that we need to get. Right now, it doesn't appear to be a need because for this year, for this coming year, students have already registered for the freshman courses. Now, we will advise students that it's no longer a requirement so the parents can make a choice, but there won't be that much move away from it. And it'll give us another year to finish the implementation of where the teachers need to be. But nobody's going to lose their job.
No, I'm not, I
Yeah.
didn't think anybody was gonna lose their job. I was just wondering if we were in need of more teachers and then the students moving to other areas. And then I guess my next question would be, since all of our testing is now online, are our students well-versed in using their computer skills? I know they're on their phones all the time texting, but there's a difference between texting and using your computer skills on a computer or to test.
Unfortunately for us and the rest of the world, kids are testing online since the 3rd grade now. So by the time they get to their freshman year,
They should be able to. Okay.
they should be pretty smart at it.
No other questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the amendment to the local graduation coursework to exclude the completion of Business Information Management, BIM course, to meet graduation requirements starting with the 2023-2024 freshman class.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We go on to item 11C. No, 11B. Consideration to approve a dual credit partnership agreement between Southwest Texas Junior College and San Felipe de Oro CISD for the 2023-2024 school year. Ida Gomez.
Thank you, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This is an annual renewal for the MOU that we have with Southwest Texas Junior College and the district. In your packet, you do have the copy of the agreement. There are just a few highlights. The college decided to just place in writing that the dual credit partnership agreement is aligned with statewide goals for dual credit programs. Furthermore, they individually listed the goals throughout the agreement to include also the funding goal. And finally, at the very end, you will see the last change. It is one that we have been practicing for many years. An adult has to accompany the students when they do go for their classes at the junior college, but we have had that practice here for many years. Those are the only changes, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? None, hearing none. Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the superintendent of schools to sign the dual credit partnership agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 11C, consideration to approve the 2023-2024 Memorandum of Understanding between San Felipe de Oro CISD and Southwest Texas Junior College for the purpose of continuing a partnership with Early College High School and Pathways in Technology, P-TECH. Ida Gomez.
Thank you, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This is the second agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College. This one is just specific to Early College High School and P-TECH. It has the same changes listing the state goals and funding and that same entry at the end for safety and security.
Any questions from board members? Hearing none. The recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the superintendent of schools to sign the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and Southwest Texas Junior College for the continuation of early college, high school, and Pathways in Technology dual credit program as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Gonzalez made a motion. Is there a second? Mrs. Webb? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go on to item 13B. Consideration to approve the submittal of the 2023 Seamless Summer Option SSO application. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. The Texas Health and Human Services Commission requires the operation of the summer food service program by school districts in which 50% or more of the area children are eligible for free or reduced price meals in the National School Breakfast and Lunch Program during the regular school year. So our district does fall under the requirements of that program, and we would like to, for approval to submit our 2023 Seamless Summer Option application. And the locations that we will be submitting on this application will be Buena Vista, Garfield, Calderon, San Felipe Memorial, Del Rio Middle School, and Del Rio High School.
Question from board members? No questions? Recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the Seamless Summer Option Food Service Program application.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go on to Human Resources, item 14A, discussion possible action to approve employee job descriptions and evaluations. Aide Garcia.
Yes, good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The following job descriptions are being recommended for your approval. The first one is New Tech Middle School Teacher. This is just an update from the one that we brought last month to change the P-Tech to New Tech. This is going to be for the San Felipe Memorial Middle School. The following job descriptions, which is the Operations Coordinator, Transportation Director, Technology Director, and Special Education Director, as well as our Communication and Public Relations Director. The only changes in those is that we're changing the supervisor area. And then the last ones, which is your Chief Academic Officer, your Chief Administrative Officer, and your Chief Human Resource Officer, due to changes in the restructuring cabinet, they're assuming some additional responsibilities. So our Chief Academic Officer will now have oversight over technology. Chief Administrative Officer will have the oversight of special ed, and the Chief Human Resource Officer will have the oversight of the Transportation Department. Any questions on those job descriptions?
Anyone? Hearing no questions, recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job description and evaluation forms as discussed.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 14B, consideration to approve the updated 2022-2023 district compensation plans. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. And in advance, we apologize for not including the compensation plan that we're recommending tonight, but we did leave it there next to your computer. There are minimal changes to this. If you can see on the administrative professional pay plan, we're removing the title of Director Administrative
to Chief Administrative Officer. That's one change. And then if you look under the paraprofessional pay plan, we're changing the title of the secretary for Chief Instructional Officer to Chief Instructional Academic Officer Secretary. And we're also changing the title of the Chief Operations Officer Secretary to Chief Innovative Officer Secretary. And then the last one, we're including a stipend for our ROTC program for $3,788. Any questions on these changes to our compensation pay plan? Okay.
I have one. Isaiah, could you tell me the difference between the extracurricular and ROTC instructor?
Yes, so for the ROTC, they have a minimum military instructor pay that they have to be paid. And this additional pay will bring them to be compensated for all the extra events that they do at football games or when they do have to accompany the students for the posting of the colors and
Okay.
extracurricular.
Dr. Rios?
Yes, Mr. Mesa. In essence, the ROTC instructors take kids to camp in the summer, and that's outside of the contract. And then there are a lot of after-school and weekend activities. So we studied it, and when we looked at the number of outside school hours plus the summer days that they work, we thought it was comparable to what I believe a JV coach would make.
A JV coach.
And so that's why we're making that recommendation. And the guidelines from the government do say that the school district should try and compensate them for days outside of their contract.
Okay. And I know they're present at different activities throughout the city, after hours and so forth. Okay. Anyone else? No other questions, recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the updated 2022-2023 district compensation plan as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 14C, consideration to approve the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe de Oro CISD and Soros State University. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. We are proud to announce that we did receive a grant from TEA that awards 3 teachers to acquire their principal certification, and this is through an application process. TEA does require for us to work with a university so that they can do the certification through them and get their master's degree as well. We've had this MOU for the past 2 years, but it's been under a partial grant, and TA will pay for this, for their master's degree and their certification as well. So any questions on this MOU?
Dr. Rios.
And just for clarification, Mr. Mesa and board members, the teachers that would be selected would serve in the capacity of an internship as administrators and no longer as classroom teachers. The district in the past had a similar program. I don't know if it was a grant-based program at the time or just a local initiative because I wasn't superintendent then, but this would, in effect, take 3 people and immerse them into an internship while they're working on their master's.
Correct.
So could you tell me what it entails as far as the grant monies? What do they go to?
The grant, it pays for all their tuition. It pays for them to get their AEL certification, their T-test certification, their reimbursement on their test fees. And the district had to contribute some money for them to get their a stipend. And that's the only part that the district is paying.
So, Dr. Rios, they don't serve as teachers?
No, sir. They'll be administrative interns. They'll
Okay.
be assigned to depending on who's selected, they'll be assigned to a campus to serve as administrative interns.
So they will continue earning a salary.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
And a
sir.
stipend.
And a stipend.
Okay.
And that's a requirement of the grant, not to be in the
Okay.
classroom.
Great. Awesome. Any questions from anyone else? Okay, no questions, recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and Sil Ross University, and for the Dr. Rio Superintendent of School to sign the memorandum of understanding as presented.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez. Is there a second? Mr. Orfeld? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The time is 8:24 p.m. We're going to reconvene, we're going to go into executive session. If an action is required, it will be taken upon reconvening into open session. We're now in closed session. The time is 9:40 p.m. We're going to reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive. We're down to item 18A. Consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, posted vacancies, retirements, resignations.
Yes, good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. It is the recommendation of administration that the board approve the resignation, vacancies, and following new personnel. Julissa Hernandez, kindergarten bilingual teacher at Ruben Chavira Elementary, and Sarai Salinas, music teacher and assistant band director at San Felipe Memorial Middle School.
The recommendation from the administration is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18C, consideration to approve the position of librarian for Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary. Ade Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Lynette Rodriguez, librarian for Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18D, consideration to approve the position of librarian for Lamar Elementary. Ade Garcia.
It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Thila Rodriguez, librarian for Lamar Elementary.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Orfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Consideration, item 18F, consideration to approve the position of principal for Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Ade Garcia.
It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Santiago Salas as principal for Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18G, consideration to approve the position of principal for Ruben Chavira Elementary. Ade Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Carol Sunderland as principal for Ruben Chavira Elementary.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18H, consideration to approve the position of principal for Del Rio Middle School, 7th grade. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Mr. Jesus Rogelio Soto as principal for Del Rio Middle School, 7th grade.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mrs. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Unanimous.